Hello and welcome back to Classic Vinyl Podcast. You're here with Justin and Tyler.
Yep, I'm half of those.
Yeah, you're half of those.
Yeah.
So today we've got an artist we actually haven't done any albums or songs from quite yet, and I don't know why, but Bob Dylan.
Yeah, I think we've talked about him in an early episode, and I think I insulted him and got a lot of hate for it. And you guys, all you Dylan fans out there, were right. I was wrong, and I apologize.
Yeah, and you didn't even really know why you insulted him, but we both do enjoy Bob Dylan, so we're going to do Bob Dylan and Blowin' in the Wind. Now, let me give you a little bit of history on Bob Dylan. We don't have a 5-hour show here to even cover part of it, but I'll just kind of do a little bit on him. He's obviously an American singer-songwriter. He was born as Robert Allen Zimmerman on May 24th, 1941 in Duluth, Minnesota. Don't they make underwear there?
Yeah, they make underwear out of used fire hoses.
Is that what it is?
Something like that. I don't know.
Okay. So Bob Dylan, when you talk about him, I mean, he's had a very long career, over a 60-year music career, and he was most especially popular in the 60s with many songs that became anthems for the civil rights and anti-war movements. He was influential on a number of artists. We could go into a lot about him, but it gets pretty deep with Bob Dylan.
It does.
Yeah. Overall, he sold over 130 million albums worldwide, making him one of the best-selling artists of all time. Total, he's released 40 studio albums, 21 live albums, 17 bootleg series albums, 44 compilation albums, 7 soundtracks, 24 EPs, and 104 singles released. Pretty decent numbers there.
I'll say.
Now, in the U.S., 34 of those studio albums have been in the top 50. He had 5 number one albums and another 5 albums in addition to that hit the top 5. So a total of 10 albums in the top 5. In the UK, he actually had more albums, 39 albums. 39 of his 40 albums were in the top 50 in the UK. He had 9 number one albums and another 11 albums in the top 5. So in the UK, he had 20 albums. So exactly half of his albums hit the top 5 in the UK.
It's not bad for a kid from Duluth, Minnesota who grew up eating hot dish.
No, it seems to me like he really caught on in the UK almost more than in America. He has also had several live albums, bootleg series albums, and compilations that have charted in the top 10. So we're not even getting started there. So
he's popular.
He was a little bit popular, yeah. So in the U.S., as far as his singles are concerned, he had 16 singles in the top 50. Like a Rolling Stone and Rainy Day Women, number 12 and number 35, they both hit number 2. That's his top charting single in the U.S. He did not have a number 1 single in the U.S.
I'm surprised to hear that. This guy's a big player on the world stage.
Well, without a doubt. But
being such a little guy.
But he only had 2 other singles in the top 10. So he only had 4 singles hit the top 10. None of them hit number 1 here in the U.S. Now, in the UK, as far as the singles are concerned, he had 18 singles in the top 50, with Like a Rolling Stone being his highest charting single at number 4, and he had 5 other singles in the top 10. So, he only had 4 singles in the top 10 in the U.S., 5 in the UK, but as well as he did with his albums in the UK, his top charting single only hit number 4 in the UK.
I'm surprised to hear these stats.
I think when it's good music, it's good music, and I think his albums speak...
He does have staying power.
Yeah, they speak greater than the singles. In fact...
For sure. And once again, we're going off of the Billboard and these charts that are subjective.
Exactly. The other thing that people forget about Dylan is with his songwriting. There's a lot of these songs you heard during the 60s previous to him releasing the songs that other artists released them and had very good success with them.
Sure.
But he has also released 61 music videos. He's been the subject of 11 documentaries. He starred in 3 theatrical films and appeared in 36 additional documentaries and small films. He's also published 11 books. He's published poetry, essays, and several lyric books. His music... It's been described as folk rock, standard folk, blues, gospel, country, pop, jazz, you name it. He kind of covers a lot of genres when it comes to that.
This guy really is a modern-day minstrel.
Without a doubt. He was inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1988. He has received 10 Grammy Awards after being nominated 40 times for a Grammy. He's won a Golden Globe, an Academy Award, and in 2016 was awarded a Nobel Prize in Literature.
He's got a lot of fans out there.
Yeah. And he also has 3 songs and 5 albums in the Grammy Hall of Fame. He's certainly one of the most influential artists and people in general of the 20th century, musically and culturally. And his lyrics have branded Dylan a poet and a counterculture leader, especially in the 60s, without a doubt. So Rolling Stone has ranked Bob Dylan as high as number 1 best songwriter of all time on their 2015 list. It's funny how certain people can make number 1 one year and then they're number 5 the next year. They're either the best songwriter or they're not. And
yeah.
Like you said with Billboard, I mean, songwriting's also subjective as well. So,
sure, yeah.
I mean, it is what it is, but there's no denying his success.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so striking to me that that you got this one entity that's listing him as the number 1, and he's never had a number 1 hit single. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and there's so much to talk about Bob Dylan without a doubt, but he's been influential to so many people and so many artists that definitely wouldn't have existed without him. There's no doubt about that. Certainly influential on my favorite band of all time, which people listen to this podcast know it's the Beatles. I mean, he was very influential on them, and they're one of many. Do you want to get to the song review?
I do.
And now it's time for the song review.
Okay, so today we're going to do Bob Dylan, Blowin' in the Wind. And before we go on to a few details on this, Tyler, what is your history with this song and with Bob Dylan in general?
Okay, so Bob Dylan is somebody that I haven't listened to him a lot. I've heard him quite a bit. He gets a lot of radio play. He's a real popular artist.
Well, and I think, like I stated before, there's a lot of songs you hear on the radio that are Bob Dylan songs that people probably don't know are Bob Dylan songs.
For sure. And this song is one of those. I don't think I heard this version of this song. Goodness, I was probably in my 20s. This song is in Forrest Gump, but I don't think the Bob Dylan version is in Forrest Gump, is it?
No, that was something I was going to get to later, but yeah, it's in Forrest Gump, one of my favorite movies, and you've got Jenny singing it as she's nude on stage. She calls herself the beautiful Bobby Dylan, I believe.
That's right, yeah.
But she's just playing an acoustic guitar, and I think that's the version that's on.
Okay.
It's actually her singing.
And that's probably the version that I've heard the first. I've probably since then heard the Peter, Paul, and Mary most.
Yeah.
But I have heard the Bob Dylan version several times, and yeah, so I've got a little bit of experience with this one, but not a whole lot.
Okay, so Bob Dylan, Blowin' in the Wind. It was released as a single on August 13th of 1963. This may be one of the earliest songs we've done.
I think so.
We've done some Beatles in 63. I don't know if we've done them this early, but this is going to be close.
It seems kind of early for as politically charged as this song is. Counterculture, it just seems like this is really a front runner.
Yeah, without a doubt. So the B-side of this song is a song called Don't Think Twice, It's All Right. This song was, of course, written and sang by Bob Dylan. It was recorded at Columbia Studios in New York City and produced by John H. Hammond, which John H. Hammond has got a kind of an interesting story that we won't go into here, but I suggest you research him a little bit. So this song was released originally on his album, The Freewheeling, Bob Dylan, in 1963. There's a lot that could be said about that album, but that album seriously had an impact on music, including, like I stated earlier, my favorite band of all time, the Beatles, who have stated they wore the album out from listening to it so much. I mean, it was a very heavy influence on them, along with all the other groups of the time. Now, this song did not originally chart when released as a single for Bob Dylan. It was re-released as a single in 2009 for him, which, I mean, let's be honest, almost 50 years later, and it only reached number 93. This has been covered by more artists than we can name, but a few of them I will name: Joan Baez, Dolly Parton, Neil Young, Bobby Darin, Stevie Wonder, which took it to number 9 on the charts in 1966. And of course, the most popular version that most people probably know was released by Peter, Paul, and Mary. Their version hit number 2 on the Billboard charts, and that was pretty successful for this song. Won 2 Grammy Awards for the group in 1964, and their version was also inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame. So not bad for stealing a song from Bob Dylan.
Oh, for sure. But to their credit, they have a lot better harmony than Bob Dylan. because he's only himself.
Dylan's idol was Woody Guthrie, big time in the folk scene. And Dylan wrote a lot of his songs, especially his early ones, with the intention of other artists performing them. They released this song, Peter, Paul, and Mary, and that was kind of Dylan's intention at the time, and it is a different version.
So he's happy.
Yeah, he's happy. But this song, Blowing in the Wind, this is a song that really changed everything for Bob Dylan and really established him as a singer-songwriter in the folk scene, most especially. Now, a lot of people think this song is a protest song, which if you listen to the lyrics, I think you can put a lot into it and read a lot into it, but they're pretty straightforward. But Bob Dylan has stated that this is not a protest song. He explained that he wrote a song with something that needed to be said for somebody, by somebody, whatever that means. But to me, and how you interpret it and what you just said a few minutes ago, this seems kind of like the front runner for that counterculture, for that protest song. That's what it seems like to me when you listen to the lyrics.
For sure.
A lot of people say the lyrics are vague or intentionally ambiguous, but I don't think so. I think they're straightforward. I mean, if you listen to them, it's pretty straight of what they are. You know what I mean?
It's poetic.
It is. How many times can cannonballs fly? How many times can a man turn his head? How many deaths will it take till he knows? I mean,
how many ears will a man have to have? Okay, that might be a little.
That's different.
That's
different. I find it pretty straightforward, and it does seem to me like an anti-war, anti-establishment, whatever you want to call it. I mean, you could probably put your own meaning into it, but it's kind of anti-something. It's kind of saying get out there and live in a lot of ways, but quit destroying each other and quit destroying the world. That's what I take out of it.
We just got to get all the French out of Vietnam.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how early this is.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Dylan has stated he took about 10 minutes to write this song, and that the music in the song is actually derived from an old slave spiritual song named No More Auction Block.
I'm surprised. I'm really impressed this took him only 10 minutes.
Had quite a bit of staying power with this song, I would say. I mean, this Rolling Stone, once again, for what it's worth, has ranked this as high as number 14 in their top 500 songs of all time. It's been featured in, like I said earlier with Forrest Gump, but it's been featured in more movies, commercials, television, thousands and thousands of times over the years. It's just a very influential song to many artists, to many people, and I think helped kick off a lot of the music of the 60s in a certain way.
For sure.
So after hearing Blowing in the Wind, with the purpose of rating it, Tyler, what are your thoughts on this song?
Okay, so this song is, listening to critique it, it's very simple, very basic. This is an acoustic guitar, one man singing, and that same man playing harmonica as an interlude. It's real simple. There's not a whole lot of pageantry and floweriness to it. It's very basic and straightforward. It's got a really good tune. I think it very much shows that it comes from that slave song roots, where you've got that rhythm and the beat to it, but it's also really folksy. And the lyrics are beautiful. They are very straightforward, but they're also very poetic. It's a beautiful song to listen to. Bob Dylan, not a huge Bob Dylan fan, but I really like the song, and I especially like it when it's performed by other artists. Bob Dylan, he's so subdued, but there's something about this. He sounds like he's about 40 years older than he is, because this would have been Bob Dylan in his early 20s, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So, and he sounds like he's about in his 60s singing this. But I think that's just kind of Bob Dylan's style. And it fits to have someone with that kind of experience and sage wisdom of the ages to be singing a song like this. So I like that aspect of his voice, but it's hard to put into words. It gives you this feeling. It hits you right in your core. He is sending a very strong message, and it comes across to me really preachy. But listening to what he's saying, I dig the message. I get it. So I'm really pleased with how this artist created this artwork. I'm really impressed that he is creating this artwork for other artists to perform as well. And I'm glad that other artists have taken it and run even further with it. It's a beautiful song. I think that there's a lot of elements to this that improve it throughout the years. My early times of listening to this, I didn't like this song in my early years. but the longer that I've had exposure to it, the more that I've sat down and listened to it, the more I appreciate what it is and the more I like. That's my thoughts on this. What are your thoughts, Justin?
Well, I think this is a perfect example of early Dylan before he plugged in and shocked the whole folk scene world. This song is a perfect example of how something can be so simplistic yet have such a major impact. There's nothing, I mean, it's a nice guitar, nice acoustic guitar, a little bit of harmonica to go with it. You've got Bob Dylan singing, which is nothing to write home about, but it's Bob Dylan. It's one of those things that, yeah, he's not going to win any competition singing, but that's what makes him perfect. His voice, his gravelly voice, the kind of nasally voice you get with him, you know, it's just, it sounds silly, but it's Dylan-esque because it's obviously Dylan, but it's perfect. You know, it wouldn't be the same without that. Now the song, I love the simple acoustic guitar without it. You've got his voice. I don't even know what to say about it, but the harmonica, a couple mini solos in there. And it's so simplistic. And when we listen to the other versions, like we did listen to the Peter, Paul, and Mary version, it's good. And it's got good harmonies in it. And you can see why it was popular. Yeah. But something about Dylan's version, stripped down to the core, you feel the lyrics more. To me, it seems more poignant.
It's probably because he has that rough voice. And the Peter, Paul, and Mary, they're softer voices, but with the rough graveliness of his voice, it really strikes you to the core.
Yeah, it does. Just when he's talking about, you know, forever banning cannonballs, that seems like a silly thing to say, but it makes sense in the context. You know, how many times must a man look up before he can see the sky? Now, you can read into that whatever you want. You know, is that saying people are blindly following what's going on? Who knows? But that's why this song can kind of mean what you want it to mean. It's really weird because generally when it comes to music for me is I want to hear some good guitar and thick bass and the drums mixed well and all that. But this breaks the rules because this is perfect, you know, and I'm not a huge Dylan fan. I like most of his popular songs, and unfortunately, Harry, you go to his concerts, I've heard this a bunch, and he won't even play his popular songs there. But I'm sure the real Dylan fans are fine with that because they don't want to hear the stuff they're hearing on the radio. I mean, he's got so much material. And there's some serious Dylan fans out there. I'm kind of afraid to dive into it. I don't know if I have the time for 40 albums. To me, it's amazing how powerful this song is with being so scaled down. And that's what makes it special, in my opinion. It's a really, really good song. And I don't listen to it that much because it doesn't seem to fall into what, I don't know, it doesn't fall into categories very well. Oh. Some of the later Dylan electric music does a little better, but some of his folky stuff you definitely have to be in the mood for, and some people, that's all they're into and won't listen to his electric stuff. I like all of it, but I don't get that deep into it, but this is an amazing song.
Yeah, it seems like as stripped down as this is like Bob Dylan built the frame for a structure, and he's allowed other people to decorate around that frame and build around it to make it even more flourished than what it is.
Yeah, I agree with that, but for some reason, no matter how many artists cover Dylan's songs and flourish them, as you will, something about Dylan's stripped down versions are just more special to me.
It's kind of like maybe seeing the Parthenon. You know, something that's just a big raw stone structure. And yeah, you could throw some decoration on it, but there's something just really awe-inspiring about that raw stone structure.
Yeah. So do you want to get the song rating?
I do.
Song rating.
Okay, so if this is your first time listening, our rating system 0 to 10. 10 being the best. So I give this song a solid 6, and that seems really low after our discussion of it, but I'm going with my gut. That's how little I liked this song before. You know, the other versions of this song, I would probably bump it up another point or two. You know, 6, this song is starting to grow on me. And so that's kind of like a work in progress. You're getting a snapshot of where I'm at on this scale. It just, once again, it comes across really preachy, but I do value the message. I like the song more the more I listen to it, the more I sit and think about what he's saying. I'm not going to cap it and say, well, that's all it's ever going to be for me. What do you put this one, Justin?
Yeah, we're pretty far apart on this one. I have to rate this song as its impact as well as what I think of the song. Some of the best songs are happy accidents, or I know I'm always talking about the Beatles, but look at how many songs those guys and other groups could crank out in matters of days. And now it takes months and months to make a song. So, and those songs still hold up to this day. And if you look at this, how many movies and commercials and TVs this has been featured in, and how many people have covered it. I rate this song an 8.5, and I think it's stronger than that, to be truthful. But I mean, one guitar and a harmonica and one man, pretty impactful in my opinion.
Yeah, for as basic and simple and like raw as this is, I mean, when he sings it to you, it blows me away that he wrote this in 10 minutes. But then again, the version that we're listening to on the recording, I'm like, okay, that's maybe his third or fourth run through of this. And so
or
it's
maybe
like,
even the first.
it could be. Might as well be the first. He might have just flipped on his microphone and started playing and singing.
So that's Bob Dylan and Blowin' in the Wind. Send us an email and let us know what you think. Send any suggestions for songs you'd like us to review at classicvinylpodcast@gmail.com. And like always, we really appreciate you taking your time to listen to us. But until next time, we'll see you later.
See ya. Thank you so much for listening to Classic Vinyl Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Classic Vinyl Podcast for updates, and also share us with your music-loving friends.